Well, I guess as I was looking at the story for the message that I wanted to begin with this morning, it made me a little bit nostalgic. It took me back to 1974. Telling my age now. Some of you may remember 1974. Some of you may not. But back then, right around that time in the midst of the disco era, there was a song that said, yes, I'd like to know where you got the notion. Yes, I'd like to know where you got the notion. Rock the boat, don't rock the boat, baby. Rock the boat, don't tip the boat over. Rock the boat, rock the boat, baby. Rock the boat. So what does that have to do with this morning's message? I don't know. Other than I started singing that song because Irvin Seal, in his book, Take Off From Within, tells a story that I love. Because he has the advice to let the mind lay still, as he says. Let the mind lay still. And that is that we allow ourselves to become centered in the moment. And we don't allow situations and circumstances to stir us or move us from that place. And he tells the story of being on a ship that the boat starts to rock. The boat starts to reel, and it is in the midst of a rough and stormy sea. And on that boat is a woman that he calls Mrs. Smith. And Mrs. Smith already was nervous about being on the boat. She already had some fear and trepidation about traveling by boat, and that was back during the time where that was the main source of travel when people wanted to go on transatlantic journeys and all of those things. And Mrs. Smith had already been thinking about, I'm on this boat and all of the things that might happen. And she's standing there at the railing of the ship, and she's looking over the railing and looking at how choppy and rough the seas are and how much the boat really is rocking back and forth. And somebody walks up to her and says to her, Mrs. Smith, you look ill. And just as that moment when they make that suggestion, because she had already been caught up in that and already in the midst of all of those things, of course, we know what happened next. Over the rail, the contents of the day, unfortunately, I'm trying to be as nice and politically correct as I can, went into the sea. And just a few feet away from Mrs. Smith was an old, crusty, experienced sailor who had been standing there as well, named Larry. And someone walks up to Larry and says the same thing, suggests the same thing to Larry, but Larry stands and looks at him, looks at the wind, looks at the sea, looks at him, looks at the wind, looks at the sea, unfortunately looks at Mrs. Smith, looks again, and laughs. Nothing's wrong with him, because he is able to let his mind lie still. In other words, we so often get caught up and we allow external conditions to influence us. And as we are talking in this teaching, and particularly in this month, about how it is that we can be brand new, an important factor in all of this is learning not to be controlled by external conditions, but rather becoming aware of ultimately our divine centers in such a way that no matter what happens on the outside, we have that place on the inside that Azora took us to this morning in the centering moment, that place on the inside that stays constant and stays still. And so we do these things. We do these exercises. We do the teachings that we have. We do the other things that we have that help us and allow us to do these things so we're not controlled by outward circumstances and all those things there. In his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, Joe Dispenza talks about the thing of it is that we can either be living a life that is part of cause and effect, meaning the things that happen on the outside influence us. It's a rainy and gloomy day, so we become rainy and gloomy, or we can decide that we're going to have blue skies. They're blue. They may not be as blue as we're used to when the sun is out, but they're still blue out there. I see it. But it's not allowing external conditions to control us. So it's not a matter of cause and effect, but it's a matter of causing effect. We become that which determines what it is that we wish to experience and to see about life. I had a friend just recently send or post a video of her daughter who is taking karate in Dallas, and she was at one of the tournaments, and she was performing a kata. And a kata, if you're not familiar with it, but it's a preset form of moves in karate or other martial arts where you're imagining opponents around you and you are going through the moves and you're going through the steps. And the thing about a kata that is important, and the reason why it's practiced over and over and over again, I remember when I was doing it in martial arts, is because it trains you in such a way that after a while, you don't even think about it, but you move through the moves. Your body has the muscle memory to make the moves that you need to make, and your brain connects with that, so you become fluid and you're able to do those things. And I never dreamed of that happening to me, but I remember a particular situation where I was on the college campus where I was, and I was involved in the martial arts, and there was a particular day a guy came running up on me. And I looked at his face and I saw in his eye that he didn't have the best intention for me. And before I knew it, I made a couple of moves and there he went. The kata that I had been practicing all that time without thinking, without that, it just happened. And it allowed me to take care of myself and do what I needed to do. Now, what can happen for us if we are not careful? We can repeat over and over and over again negative ways of thinking and reacting and doing. And those things will happen for us, whether we realize it or not. It may be that we have learned to see in ourselves always finding conflict or always finding somehow adverse circumstances around us. So we begin to interpret all of the ways in which we are around people as somehow being negative, as somehow being adverse. And so some of you may know people like that, nobody in this room, but you know people like that who always have to have an adversarial relationship, an adversarial circumstance. Everybody else can be around certain people in certain places and things go fine, but there's always that one person that finds, well, I don't like the way they looked at me, or I think that they had something in for me, or we've got a beef, or all of those things, because their brains and their bodies have been trained to look for conflict and to see conflict in everything. And it's important for us to understand how our bodies and our minds work together. They are integrated and they work together, that our thoughts are the language of the mind and our feelings are the language of the body. And so sometimes we can get into the place where we will say that we want to be brand new. We say that we want to change. We say change your thinking, change your life. But what is happening is our feelings don't correspond with our language and our thinking, and we get stuck. And one of the reasons why we get stuck is simply this, and this has helped me to learn this and to begin practicing this. Think about for a moment where anybody know a thrill seeker? Somebody that just loves, is that you, Matthew?
Yeah,
thrill seeker? There you are. Somebody that just loves the thrill, maybe being out in the sail and the wind flowing through the sails and flowing through your hair, and your hair's all tousled and everything, and Margaret goes, "Oh, Matthew."
She's not on the boat.
I was trying to help you out, Margaret. But the thrill, and what happens there is that thrill that goes through us. There's a chemical called dopamine that is released in our bodies when thrills happen that make us feel happy and excited and all of those things. Just as when we're afraid, certain chemicals release in our bodies. Again, remember, the mind, thoughts are the language of the mind, and feelings, the language of the body, and those chemicals that are produced there. And we become addicted to those feelings. That's why people that are thrill seekers have to do it over and over and over again, because it feels good, and they become addicted to it. That's why people who get tattoos, walking down somebody's street, and I'm not, but there's something about the sensation of the tattoo pen going in the skin that produces a feeling that people like. Right, Karen? I mean, not putting you on the spot, because it's not a negative thing, but it's a recognition that these chemicals that our bodies produce in the midst of the feelings that we have, we become addicted to those chemicals. And so oftentimes we can say, I'm going to make a change, and we say it here, but we are still addicted. And so as we are addicted, what happens is that we talk the game, but our bodies are saying, wait a minute, I'm not ready yet to give this up. I like this, when I like this feeling that I think back on a few years ago when I was in a situation and there was a lot of tension happening for me. And one of the familiar feelings that I had was my stomach would get tight. And I would start to feel flush. And I didn't know what was going on at the time. But I found, as I started gaining information about all of this, there were times where I would procrastinate or not get something done or self-sabotage myself even though I knew better, but because I was addicted to that feeling. And I was addicted to those chemicals. That while my mouth was saying, I'm going to do better, I'm going to do better, I'm going to do differently, my body was pulling me back into same kinds of behavior, same kinds of situations, same kinds of actions. So the key is, if we really want to change, if we really want to be brand new, that what we first have to then begin envisioning is, what would it feel like if I were this person or were in this situation or circumstance that I say that I wish to experience. And you all know that at the New Year's Eve party we did the active experience, but a part of it is that it's more than just simply declaring that I'm going to be a successful person. I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to be a business owner. I'm going to be a outstanding parent. I'm going to be a wonderful lover. I'm going to be whatever it is that you decide that it is that you wish to be. But a part of that is that not only do you declare it, but you also think, how would I feel? How would I feel if I were experiencing this reality? What would it feel like to be confident as a business owner? What would it feel like to be enthralled as a lover, have that significant other in my life, and that when they come around, my heart skips a beat, all of those things? What would it feel like? And begin creating, as Neville Goddard likes to call that state. And when you recall that state, then you begin training your body and your mind differently to experience those feelings, and more importantly, begin to produce those chemicals. Because if you're going to stop one thing, you have to replace it with another. Nature abhors a vacuum, and if we're going to replace it with something, then we need to replace it with that which will serve us. And so we begin doing this, and as we do that, we begin working within our bodies ways in which we have these feelings, and corresponding to those feelings in our body, in our brain, because our brains produce these grooves that, just like that kata that I talked about earlier, that as you continue to do that, not only do you have muscle memory, but you have memory here. And as we do that, then we find ourselves suddenly in the situation and circumstance we walk in. Now we are confident. And not only are we talking that we're confident, but we feel confident. One of the things, and I want you, when you have a chance to do this, because neuroscience tells us about this in research, but before you get ready to do something and you need to have a boost of confidence, one very simple and easy thing to do is to just take 2 minutes and stand like this. The Superman pose, Superwoman pose. However you wish to characterize it and call it, but what happens is you begin to put your mind in the framework of I am powerful, I am in charge, I am in control, I am able to do the stuff that I need to do, I am bad, I am determined, I am. And continue to just feel that before you get ready to do something. Maybe you need to go in and have a review at work with your boss. Or maybe you've got to make a presentation, or maybe you just need to get in front of your kids and not be bandied about. But when we learn that we are complete and whole individuals, and we work at things in such a way, we truly understand this. And that is, we can become removed from cause and effect to become causing effect. So, they can rock the boat all they want. We look confident Chris, confident Jim, confident Cecilia, confident Azor, confident Anita, confident. Doesn't matter, confident. Even when the music comes on, still. It's a reminder that maybe I need to sit down. So thank you, Karen.
Blue skies smiling at me, nothing but blue skies do I see. Bluebirds singing a song, nothing but bluebirds all day long. Noticing the days hurrying by when you're in love, my how they flying. Blue days, all of them gone. Nothing but blue skies from now on. Skies smiling at me, nothing but blue skies do I see. Bluebirds singing a song, nothing but bluebirds all day long. Never saw the sun shining so bright, never saw things going so right. Noticing the days hurrying by when you're in love. Days, all of them gone, nothing but blue skies all day long, nothing but blue skies all day long.
Take a breath, releasing this breath, knowing that there is only one presence and one power in the universe, and that is God. And as each of us embodies all that we have learned today, we take it and we make it our own, and we simply live from those very truths. We give thanks for all that have participated today. We give thanks for the lesson, the beautiful music, the centering moment, the affirmative reading, and just all of the beautiful energy that each and every person is brought into this space and into this place today. Moving forward, well, yeah, there are going to be a few little times when the boat is rocking, but I got this. Because I am not that type of person who lives by the causes and effects. I cause effects. Yeah, that's me. I know that my thoughts control my brain. And I know that my feelings are deep in my body. So when I want to make a change, I begin to feel it real. I begin to reach back and feel those beautiful moments, like when I was a kid, just sitting around on a hot summer's day, licking on an ice cream cone. Beautiful, wonderful, just being me. And when I come across a few little things that might be a challenge, I can always get into my super me pose. Yeah, I can stand with my hands on my hips, twist one to the side. I got this. So I release, I let go, I let God, and so it is.